Sarah Ferguson's charity closes for the foreseeable future. Just days after the latest release of Epstein files, the former Duchess of York's charity, Sarah's Trust, was founded in 2020 with the noble aim to champion charities across the globe and support vulnerable women. Now, in a sudden and dramatic turn, the organization has announced its closure following months of internal deliberation. The decision was made public on a quiet Monday afternoon, in early February 2026, sending shockwaves through charity circles. A brief but poignant statement from the trustees explained that Sarah Ferguson and the board had reluctantly agreed to shut down operations for the foreseeable future. The timing could hardly be more unfortunate or telling. Only days earlier, the United States Department of Justice had unsealed another massive batch of Jeffrey Epstein documents. These files, part of the ongoing transparency efforts, included previously redacted emails and correspondence that directly implicated Sarah Ferguson in prolonged contact. The revelations painted a picture far more troubling than earlier admissions she had made about the financier. Emails from 2009 through 2011 showed warm, affectionate language directed toward Epstein even after his 2008 conviction. In one message, she called him a legend in his own lunchtime and expressed a desire to be at your service, marry me. Another described him as her supreme, generous, steadfast friend. These words stood in stark contrast to her public statements, where she claimed to have cut all ties years earlier. The charity's closure announcement cited no single cause, but acknowledged that discussions had been ongoing for months. Yet the proximity to the document release has fueled speculation that the fresh wave of scrutiny proved the final straw. Sarah's Trust had been positioned as a beacon of hope for global philanthropy under the former royal's guidance. It focused on empowering women, supporting children's causes, and amplifying smaller charities that often went unnoticed. Over the past 5 years, it had quietly funded initiatives in education, health, and domestic violence prevention. Ferguson frequently used her platform to highlight partners and celebrate their work in understated but effective ways. The sudden halt leaves many questions unanswered about the future of those supported projects and beneficiaries. Trustees have promised to handle remaining funds responsibly, but provided no timeline for any potential revival. The statement emphasized regret and gratitude toward volunteers, donors, and partner organizations. Sarah Ferguson herself has remained largely silent since the announcement, issuing only a short prepared note. Through representatives, she reiterated her sorrow over any association with Epstein and her deep regret. She has consistently maintained that she repaid a loan he once provided and severed contact upon learning more. However, the newly released correspondence challenges that narrative and has reignited fierce public criticism. Media outlets in Britain and the United States have described the emails as damning and explosive. Commentators point to the affectionate tone as evidence of a relationship that endured far too long. This latest development compounds earlier damage. From previous document batches released in late 2025. Those earlier files already prompted several charities to distance themselves from Ferguson as a patron. Organizations such as the Teenage Cancer Trust, Julia's House, and the British Heart Foundation all withdrew support, citing reputational concerns. The cumulative effect has eroded her standing in the philanthropic community she once embraced. At 66 years old, Sarah Ferguson has spent decades rebuilding her public image after a turbulent royal exit. Her 1996 divorce from Prince Andrew was messy and marred by financial scandals and tabloid photos. In the years that followed, she authored children's books, appeared on reality television, and pursued speaking engagements. Philanthropy became a cornerstone of her redemption arc. Sarah's trust represented the culmination of that effort, a platform to demonstrate genuine care for others. Now, that legacy appears severely compromised. The Epstein connection traces back to the early 2010s, when Ferguson reportedly accepted financial help. She later described the £15,000 loan as a mistake, made in a moment of desperation during debt troubles. She insisted the money was repaid with interest, and that contact ended shortly thereafter. Yet the emails suggest otherwise, showing gratitude and familiarity persisting well into 2011 and beyond. One particularly scrutinized exchange involved congratulations on the supposed birth of Epstein's child, a detail still unclear. Critics argue that continuing any friendship after his guilty plea demonstrated unacceptable judgment. Defenders counter that Ferguson was manipulated, and that she has since devoted herself to atonement. The palace has offered no official comment beyond acknowledging her independent status. Prince Andrew's own Epstein ties remain a sensitive issue for the wider royal family, adding layers of complexity. Ferguson and Andrew continue to share a home at Royal Lodge despite their long-ago divorce. Their relationship is described as amicable and supportive. The charity closure has inevitably drawn parallels to other institutions affected by Epstein revelations. High-profile figures across continents face renewed scrutiny as more documents enter the public domain. In Norway, Crown Princess Mette-Marit has also apologized for past contact uncovered in the same file releases. The pattern suggests Epstein cultivated an extensive network among influential people long after his crimes surfaced. For Sarah Ferguson, the fallout feels uniquely personal. Sarah's trust was not merely another patron role. It was her own creation, bearing her name and vision. Its dissolution marks a profound personal and professional loss. Observers speculate whether she might redirect efforts through different channels or quietly step back entirely. Her recent health challenges, including skin cancer treatment, add another dimension to the difficult period she faces. Public sympathy exists in some quarters, but outrage dominates much of the current discourse. Social media reactions range from calls for accountability to defenses framing her as another Epstein victim. The charity sector watches closely to see How remaining funds will be redistributed. Some partner organizations have expressed sadness, while pledging to continue their work independently. The closure statement avoided blame or specifics, focusing instead on a collective board decision. This careful wording suggests an attempt to minimize further controversy and legal exposure. Legal experts note that no criminal wrongdoing has been alleged against Ferguson in the files. Still, the court of public opinion operates differently, and reputations can crumble without formal charges. As February 2026 unfolds, the story continues evolving. More Epstein documents are expected in coming months, potentially revealing additional context or correspondence. For now, Sarah's trust stands as the most visible casualty of this latest wave of revelations. What began as a hopeful initiative in 2020 has ended abruptly amid shadows from the past. Ferguson once symbolized resilience and reinvention. Whether she can reclaim that narrative remains uncertain. The foreseeable future, as the charity itself phrased it, now appears clouded by questions and regret. The Epstein saga refuses to fade quietly, claiming yet another chapter in its long aftermath. For Sarah Ferguson, the cost has become painfully clear. A cherished project, built with care and purpose, has closed its doors under the weight of association. The former Duchess must now navigate forward through a landscape forever altered by these events. Philanthropy, once her refuge, has become her battleground. And in the quiet aftermath of closure, the echoes of those old emails